Ladies and gentlemen, can you encourage your colleagues to come and sit and be seated? All right, ladies and gentlemen, please come in. We are starting in 1 minute. Please come in, ladies and gentlemen. We are starting in 1 minute, so we want to be very, very punctual. All right. Over the years, I have learned that early in the morning, there are 3 important things that you can say, and when you say them, they will be exactly, or they will influence a lot of the things that you do during that day. So this morning, I'm going to say 3 important things. Number 1, we will try as much as possible to make sure that you have access to your coffee and tea without delays. We will really make sure that you have your coffee and tea because we know that in the past 2 days, we compromise access to tea and coffee. Number 2 is to say to you, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The third point is to say to you that the voice of the youth is the voice of the people. So in this forum, we have young people here who are represented. And for this morning, I'm going to invite to the podium Mr. Siasia Phila Koslo. He's a youth leader in Samoa. They live on a very rocky mountain, but there they try to do agricultural production. In the corridor, you will see on the digital screen, there is a vegetable production tunnel. There is that screen running over and over. That project is led by this gentleman. They, they produce vegetables, and then they distribute the vegetables to their community. And sometimes during weekends, they do agricultural shows. They are just basically trying to encourage young people into agriculture, but also encouraging young people to consume vegetables. So Mr. Koslow will this morning summarize the discussions we held yesterday. This is particularly pertinent because yesterday we talked about production, and we talk about environment. So we couldn't have found anybody better than Mr. Koslow to summarize our discussions from yesterday. Mr. Koslow, you have the floor. And you have just 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Master Ceremony, Dalafalava, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, and distinguished delegates. As you have heard, my name is Khosrow Sisi Alfia, proudly coming from Samoa, in a little village called Tiapata up in the hills. Please find the following, a summary of our day 2 here in SIDS 2024. The theme for yesterday's session was building a blue Pacific continent through a better production and a better environment. The morning sessions, we focused on the better production module. The scope of the module was explained also through a better production introductory video. We then heard about agribusiness, livestock, and aquaculture solutions presented by officials from Fiji, Cook Islands, and Kiribati. In the next session, the goal of building the Blue Pacific continent was shared through the One Country, One Priority Product initiative, which we explored a lot yesterday. The following sessions were the breakout sessions. And our breakout sessions, the first one, building a Blue Pacific continent through fisheries and aquaculture, aims to promote awareness of various activities that can support the production of fisheries and aquaculture in Pacific SIDS. Our breakout session 2 covered the use of traditional practices as an alternative to veterinary drugs to manage common alignments in livestock. The session concluded with a presentation on sustainable ways to improve village or bush slaughter in Pacific nations. For the third breakout session, we considered how to build capacities of countries to enable them to work together in partnership on innovative nuclear techniques to support sustainable agri-food transformation. The speakers shared their experience with the joint FAO IAEA Center in Applying Nuclear and Associated Techniques in Food and Agriculture. They focused on challenges and solutions, sustainable and resilient crop production, animal production and health, soil and water management, food safety and control. For the fourth breakout session, this was an agribusiness expo event and was culminated of competitive selections process that started many weeks ago in Fiji, Samoa, and Solomon Islands. A call for applications from agribusinesses saw over 60 applicants and 10 enterprises in each country, then shortlisted into a 2-week boot camp. This boot camp helped them to better understand how to scale up and how to have future plans. After that was the favorite part of the day, which was lunch. And then after lunch, the session was then moved on to better environments. To kick off this session of the program, the scope of the better environment module was explained, and we watched the better environment video. 3 ministers from Solomon Islands, Fiji, and Papua New Guinea then presented solutions that included forest conservation and protected areas, carbon trade, strengthening disaster risk reduction, and advancing partnerships through international, regional, and self cooperation. In the next session, the goal of integrating agroforestry into resilient Pacific agri-food system was explored, especially solutions that could be scaled up in other countries. The audience heard from 3 countries about their experiences and perspectives on agroforestry. The Solomon Islands shared that agroforestry was needed to diversify, to manage risks and prevent soil erosion. Vanuatu spoke on aquatic agroforestry systems combining water, taro, shrimp, eel, and watercress. And from Tonga, we heard the traditional system of agroforestry abound, intercropped with ground level food crops. In summary, speakers emphasized that agroforestry can help SIDS to build more robust and sustainable agro-food systems. The final session of the afternoon was our concurrent breakout sessions again for better environments. The first breakout session showcased strategies for building disaster resilient agri-food systems, drawing on perspective from governments, multilateral organizations, research institutions, and the private sector. Participants were introduced to innovate solutions from the region, specifically designed to enhance resilience to natural disasters. Our breakout session 2 addressed the customization of climate information for agri-food system solutions. 6 speakers covered a range of topics. We heard about preparing climate projections and needing user-friendly information systems to support agri-food system planning and policies. In the third breakout sessions for better environment, we heard about approaches and solutions to avert, minimize, and address loss and damage from the impacts of climate change. We heard that understanding disaster risks includes understanding damage and loss. We heard about recent innovations in data collections and recording. We then were introduced to anticipate action and heard that it is proving to be useful as part of the preparedness and the DRR when there's a very high chance of events happening. Finally, there were 2 presentations related to climate and disaster recovery financing. It was explained that PCRIC financing is macro insurance, mobilizing donor resources to take on the risk for the country. This was followed by an update on the progress of coordination and negotiation to access loss and damaged funds. Final 2 presentations generated a lot of interest and discussions. The final activity of the session was the launching of an ESCAP report titled Targeting Transformative Disaster Risk Resilience in the Pacific, with a reminder that the information is available through the ESCAP Risk and Resilience portal. The 4th breakout session was titled Agrochemical Management in the Context of Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. We heard how the conventions have reinforced the impact of legislations such as the Pesticide Act 2022 in Tonga. We also heard about biological alternatives to chemical pesticides from Samoa, and that Fiji has banned 2 pesticides, paraquat, because residues were found in taro and cassava, and another which had affected bees. Alternatives have been found and participants identified the organic pesticides need to be considered further. Later that evening, we then proceeded to dinner. As a young person, listening and understanding the experience shared by different governments and different institutions, it is a great honor to say that I have learned a lot and I have filled up my bag to take home and to share with my community, understanding that the sustainability of what we are sharing today begins within our families, villages, and communities. The nucleus of our community is our family. So therefore, remember our families in our plannings, remember our families in the way our structures are built in order for sustainability. And thank you and have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, Koslo. And I remind you, if you check in the corridor, if you look on the digital kiosk, you see there's a video running. That project, they have a vegetable tunnel, and that project is managed by Koslo and a group of young people in Samoa. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very busy schedule. I just want to remind you, today is our third day. The first day was very good. Yesterday was better. Today will be the best of the three. And I promise you, we will make a lot of improvements in terms of time, in terms of your coffee breaks, in terms of your lunch. But also I remind you that we will have a field trip. Because of that, we have to be very tight with the time. The Fiji government will take us to an agriculture center a few minutes away from here, where you will be exposed to different solutions for production, solutions for environment, solutions for better nutrition, and solutions for a better life. Because of that, I really ask everybody to be punctual. Our first session this morning will be about better nutrition. And for that, please allow me to bring on the stage, to welcome to the stage, Honorable Dr. Siale Akulua, Minister of Health, Tonga. Also allow me to welcome to the stage Honorable Dr. Antonio Rabasi Lalabalavu, Minister of Health, Fiji. Allow me also to welcome to the stage Mr. John J. Kim, the FAO Regional Representative for Asia and the Pacific and Assistant Director General. Allow me also to welcome to the stage Madam Angelinka Jacome, the FAO Director for SIDS, LLDCs, least developed countries. And basically, we call her the director of OSL because of the breadth and width, height of her portfolio. I will also welcome to the podium Dr. Penjani Kamodoni, Nutrition Manager and Health Specialist for UNICEF. And lastly, Mr. Chris Dell, Biosecurity and International Capacity Development Specialist, Department of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Forestry, Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now pass the microphone on to Mr. John Kim, the FAO Regional Representative for Asia and the Pacific and Assistant Director General. JJ, you have the floor.
Thank you, Joseph. Abdullah, a very good morning. This session we'll be discussing perhaps most relevant and important topic for this region, which is about the better nutrition. We have been discussing malnutrition. We have to eliminate all forms of malnutrition, the triple burden of malnutrition. Undernutrition, overnutrition, as well as hidden hunger or micronutrient deficiencies. And these triple burden are quite acute in this region. So we would like to discuss solutions to address these challenges and what would be the opportunities and how we can materialize those opportunities to be concrete actions. So we would be listening solutions from the government perspective, also from the development partners perspective. So this session would be a most interesting session. I hope that we can manage time so that we can have also some discussion from the floor as well before we close in time. So with this, uh, let me invite MC to proceed for the next.
Thank you, JJ. Ladies and gentlemen in the Pacific, if you don't know, as JJ has said, that non-communicable diseases are a big problem, then it's good that you are here so you can learn more. With that, I will invite Dr. Siale Aquolo, the Minister of Health, Tonga. And I should let you know, in the Pacific, our research shows that in Tonga, the government is highly invested in NCDs in terms of political will. It wasn't long ago, a former Tongan prime minister was caught at Heathrow Airport where he was exercising. The idea was to create more awareness, not only about Tonga, but the context of the Pacific on NCDs. And we are very pleased to have the Honorable Minister.
I guess my MC is quite preoccupied to manage the time, so I guess he skipped one very important presentation by Angelica, the Director of Office for SIDS, LDCs, LLDCs from FAO headquarters. So if I may, I would like to Angelica first to share the overview of the FAO strategic approach on the better nutrition.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I see I'm going to be pressed for time, so I'll try to be as brief as possible with this presentation, as we have a very full day today. So it is my pleasure to present a paper on building healthier Blue Pacific through better nutrition, which was kindly prepared by our FAO Sub-Regional Office in the Pacific. As you are aware, the four betters enshrined in the Food and Agriculture Organizations of the United Nations Strategic Framework demonstrates how FAO contributes directly to Sustainable Development Goals 1, 2, and 10. So this is poverty, the elimination of hunger and all forms of malnutrition, and the reduction of inequalities. It also supports the broader Agenda 2030 and other Sustainable Development Goals, all of which are crucial for attaining FAO's overall vision. Enabling healthy diets is central to FAO's mission, particularly for the achievement of the SDG 2 and other targets. Sorry. So what is better nutrition about? Better nutrition aims to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition in all its forms by enabling access and consumption of healthy diets. As an aside, healthy diets, they have to have these four particular elements. One, they need to be adequate, that is providing essential nutrients without excess. Balanced, have the proper energy intake and sources to promote healthy weight growth and disease prevention. They need to be moderate, and they need to be diverse with a wide variety of foods across food groups with attention to nutrient adequacy and consumption of other healthy promoting substances. More importantly, diets cannot be healthy if they are not safe. So how do we go about in achieving this? We need to increase the availability and affordability of nutritious foods. This is the production and distribution of focus. We need to promote and enable nutritious food consumption through public procurement and consumer behavior focus. We need to enhance food safety. We need infrastructure and processes to reduce food loss and waste. And we also need regulation and policies to mitigate the potential impacts of unhealthy foods. SIDS as you all well know, confront interconnected challenges, including, as mentioned by Joseph in his introduction, the chronic undernourishment, health impacts of diet-related non-communicable diseases, high cost of healthy diet, all of which is further exacerbated by SIDS vulnerability to climate change, which leads to increasing disasters, loss in gross domestic product, and biodiversity. Pacific SIDS have a unique and diverse agri-food systems, rich food cultures, and a growing young population, and a diverse biogeographic and multiple ecological settings. The Pacific uniqueness, however, is being disrupted by changing food environments, consumer behaviors, and climate change. Changes in food accessibility have led to an overall dietary transition in the region. Traditional diets in the past were nutrient-rich, with leafy vegetables and complex carbohydrates, with plant foods constituting 83% of the diet, and poultry, fish, and pork providing rich sources of many essential nutrients for many Pacific Island people. Over the past few decades, there's been a shift to the consumption of foods high in sugar, salt, fat, and low in fiber. These ultra-processed foods are often cheaper and more readily available than local products, particularly in urban areas. Coupled with increasing sedentary lifestyles, statistics of non-communicable diseases in the Pacific region is growing. Some selected solutions to address these nutrition-related challenges in the Pacific include the development and update and implementation of food-based dietary guidelines to promote healthy diets, ideal in bringing implications for agri-food systems. There's also the Codex Alimentarius standards, which are international food safety standards to ensure safe foods and to facilitate fair trade. Nutrition education to transform lives and livelihoods through fish farming and integrated agricultural practices. The promotion of school food nutrition programs fostering appreciation and acceptance and demand for nutritious foods from the youngest ages. The Farm to Fork, or F2F initiative, connecting farmers to chefs, helping to better integrate farmers and fisherfolk into the tourism value chain while promoting healthy diets using local products. So to conclude, this paper recommends that proven solutions can be replicated and expanded across Pacific SIDS for the benefit of all sectors and communities. Governments are encouraged to allocate budgetary funds to sustain awareness, promotion, and implementation of proven solutions where able, while working to mobilize resources from private sector and international donor sources. Dietary data must be used to inform policies and programs to support healthy diets. A variety of data sources and tools exist and can be deployed along with technical assistance. Before closing and continuing with our emphasis on solutions and action-oriented measures, I wish to draw your attention to the FAO Global Roadmap Achieving SDG 2 Without Breaching the 1.5 Celsius Threshold, launched at COP28. And it was presented, among other places, in the first preparatory committee for the 4th International Conference on SIDS, and actually at the 4th International Conference on SIDS. While not developed exclusively for SIDS, given the often exogenous and interlinked challenges faced by SIDS, including Pacific SIDS, the roadmap could be considered as a framework to provide integrated solutions to address these intertwined challenges that faced by SIDS, many of which have common roots and could be addressed through joint solutions. SIDS are key to the global agenda, and their voice should be incorporated in the roadmap and other initiatives. And this meeting here is case in point. We have see the importance of the exchange between different SIDS here in the Pacific, sharing their experiences, sharing their solutions, and we look forward to a very fruitful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angelica, for the overview of the frame of better production, as well as some proposed solutions and recommendations. Thank you very much. Now it's time to listen the solutions from the governments. If I may, I would like to invite Honorable Dr. Siale Akaura, Minister of Health. again, I'm also preoccupied with the time management, so I forgot to run the video. So please, technicians, please run the video.
As economic and population growth in Pacific countries accelerates, ensuring nutrition for a healthy population has become an ever-present challenge. Better nutrition can lead to healthy people and healthy communities, a vital target in the 2050 strategy for building the Blue Pacific continent that commits to ensuring the health and well-being of all Pacific peoples. Better nutrition is one of the FAO Four Betters goals in its 2022 to 2031 strategic framework, working to end hunger and achieve food security and improved nutrition. The Pacific's unique regional nutrition challenges have led FAO to focus on working with governments and partners to achieve better, nutritious, and safe food for all. Better nutrition is vital for the Pacific's current and future health. Today, approximately 80% of the total deaths in Pacific small island developing states is linked to diet-related non-communicable diseases. The list of the world's top 15 obese countries is saturated with Pacific countries. Access to healthy diets and making them available, accessible, and affordable is now challenging throughout the region. FAO works in the Pacific to make healthy diets an easier choice. It collaborates with governments and international partners to promote the production and consumption of fresh, nutritious, safe, and healthy foods. FAO collaborates with the Ministries of Agriculture and Health, the Pacific Community, WHO, and UNICEF to create and implement national food-based dietary guidelines in 12 Pacific countries, emphasizing nutrition education in communities and schools.
The support of FAO and WHO, we now have a food-based dietary guideline 2024. We are hoping that these children today will be NTD-free.
The biggest challenge that Samoa is facing at the moment is the increasing prevalence of NCDs. FAO has supported the Ministry of Health through the nutrition section in developing the food-based dietary guidelines.
Growth in the Pacific leads to heightened economic aspirations and changes in consumerism that have consequences in all Pacific communities. The growing international engagement has led to a rise in imported food products and changes in diets. FAO collaborates with governments and WHO to strengthen national capacities of countries in Codex, the Global Food Safety Standards. Participating countries are now applying international food safety standards that cover good practices on food production, handling, manufacturing, hygiene, and packaging. Healthier individuals and healthier communities will ensure the Pacific plays its part in achieving the 2050 strategy for building the Blue Pacific continent and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Now, let me invite Honorable Minister Dr. Shirley Akaura, the Minister of Health of Tonga, to take the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, Honorable Ministers, my fellow panelists, and ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I'd like to thank Government of Fiji for inviting myself and my colleague from Ministry of Agriculture, especially from Ministry of Health. I'm pleased to be part of this important panel, and it's great to see the support provided by FAO to the WHO in trying to address this critical health issue within the Pacific nations. I am going to present you some slides that have been prepared by my colleagues. But before I present them, I'll present it. It's something familiar to all of you. I'd like to tell you a little story. I attended the World Health Assembly in May this year in Geneva. And myself and a few of my colleagues, we went for dinner. And we were served a dinner of a small bit of fish, some mashed sweet potatoes, and a bit of vegetables. It cost us each 75 Swiss francs, which is about 100 plus Fijian dollars. But I was telling my colleague, look, all this stuff here that we are eating in Geneva, we have better stuff in the Pacific. I can just dream of the lobster in Tuvalu, or the fish in Samoa, or the taro in Fiji. And we were saying, there's something wrong with how we prepare our food to make us proud of it, to make us proud of what we can develop with it. And I'm so happy that the FAO has provided this better nutrition as part of this commendable conference. Because I think for us in Tonga, we are in the process of developing our next 5 to 10 years of National Health Development Plan. And we want to focus on food and the issues and the challenges we've been facing in the past 20-odd years to put us at a spot, something that we are not proud of, to have very high obesity and overweight. And now we are seeing similar things happening to our children. Now we are seeing the impacts of imported processed food becoming a favorite for youngsters, the future of our countries. So may I ask the Secretary to put on my, oh yeah, that's me, yeah? Okay. So my presentation will be pretty brief. That's what I'm going to talk about the situation in Tonga and what I've just heard from other countries. They're developing their own food-based dietary guidelines and challenges and conclusion. Next slide, please. So that's a bit crowded, but it basically shows the double burden of overnutrition and undernutrition. We have done surveys on both children and women, and shows a significant percentage of them have anemia. 11% for children and 30% for women. And of course, those graphs there shows the increasing rate of obesity and other NCT indicators within not only in Tonga but throughout the Pacific for the last 10 odd years. So it's a challenge that is common to all of us here, and it's something we want to address in a more effective, sustainable way. Next slide, please. But again, to see anemia, I mean, it shows there's nutrient deficiency somewhere. So it's just the wrong diet people are consuming. And I'm sure this is something we are all familiar with. It started off when all this processed food came into the Pacific. And sometimes I have a feeling we are a bit too hard on the population, blaming them for their choices. But at the same time, I think we should use a lens that they are really victims of things imposed upon them without their control. Some people are importing, or perhaps without the intention to make some money, but we are forcing people to eat processed food in a way that we need to provide the policy environment that protects them. I know we are talking about making taxes, making things more expensive, which is easy to do, but we need to do a bottom-up approach to, of course, this one here, the guideline for healthy living, which I give credit to FAO for introducing it to the Pacific. We copied this from the Pacific guideline for healthy living, which has been developed over the last couple of years. And I know it's a great piece of work. It's a great tool because it's holistic. It's looking at various aspects, at policies. It's looking at how to train people. Next slide. I think it's just the development of a guideline. Those are the purposes of the guideline. And there are so many other, there are about 10 guidelines. You can't read it from the back there, but it talks about food, talks about even right at the end there, I can't read it from here too. But at the end, it talks about mental health and well-being. So it's a comprehensive guideline, but geared, because we have so many actors in this space. There's so many people trying to do some good about NCD, but they need to be guided. They need to be guided so that they do it in a systematic way that can be monitored, that can be research, or we can document the outcome, the outputs, and we can follow the progress in a systematic way. And at the same time, they need to be linked to what's priority within the Ministry of Health, within the government. And it's clear to development partners what they are developing, what to expect out of these things. And I think we do all have our own NCD strategies within every country, have their own. But I think this is a very good, more towards the activity level. At the same time, it's a guidance. It provides us more, it turbocharge. I call it a turbocharge our efforts, trying to improve the effectiveness of whatever we are doing. Sometimes it's often that Ministry of Health are blamed when these things blow out of thing, when the NCD, but really, Ministry of Health only deals with 30% of determinants of health. Most of the other 70% is other sectors. It's the policy environment, it's Ministry of Agriculture, education, how we teach it's trade, communication. It's so many things. So I think this guideline really provides the training for the providers on all these sectors so that they can coordinate their efforts to make it more effective. Yes, next slide. Yeah, those are just the implementation strategies, just to increasing the awareness, community advocacy. I won't go through the whole of it, it's too long. The next one is, of course, that's what we want to see, the impact on public health. And I want, actually, the health promoting schools, I'm going to talk about that during the breakout session. So I won't go through it now, but those are existing initiatives that are ongoing at the moment, but they're well linked to what the healthy living guideline is providing for Tonga. And then we also have a similar partnership with the churches called Health Promoting Church. But that's another long talk. I won't go through that. The challenges, I'll just briefly talk about the challenges. And talking about food, I think that's something we want to address because we want to ensure that we have good public health policies to provide supportive food environments. We see the impact of marketing to children we need to provide policies to protect our children from marketing forces, providing negative um, impacts on children's choice of healthy food. We are seeing the proliferation of fast food to high in fat, salt, available, easily available for communities. That's something we need to address. Again, as I mentioned before, our next National Health Development Plan, we will use these challenges. We'll use these challenges not so much to make us all feel bad, but really to stimulate, to make it more exciting. We've heard it from previous speakers here, to make things more, I guess, to table judge our efforts so that people look forward to the challenge rather than shying away and saying we can't do much about NCD. They provide the energy, re-energize us to address it in a very joyful way, I guess, to make it as an exciting challenge. And we focus on the positives rather than the rate of NCDs and the rate of diabetes. We need to focus on what we can do to address these major challenges. Yes, and then it's conclusion, I think. Next one. Yeah, that's just emphasizing what I have said before. We now understand that there's a double burden of malnutrition and overnutrition leading to NCDs. We need to change food environment and go back to the nutritious traditional diets rather than continuing to embrace the imported processed food. The Tonga Guideline for Healthy Living, it has shown that it's very fundamental in delivering extensive education, promotion on healthy eating and other lifestyles, and level of knowledge is good to high, but there's still limited behavioral changes. So those are challenges. And lastly, I think this is something that we acknowledge, and I'm sure a lot of you would acknowledge, that there's no single silver bullet to address NCD. It needs to be a combination of comprehensive and coherent policies. There needs to be leadership and commitment. There needs to be advocacy, communication, and public education. There need to be joint action, multi-sectoral, and there needs to be robust monitoring and evaluation. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, it's not easy. NCD is difficult, but it can be an exciting challenge to all of us. Malo, I think that's it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Tonga, for those very insightful solutions. I think the Honorable Minister shared a very interesting solution, which is audited guidelines for healthy lives. It proposes 10 guidelines, and I noticed that 6 out of 10 are directly related to food. He also emphasized the multi-sectoral approach as a holistic approach. Definitely, we need to work together. Any single actor may not solve this very complicated challenge of triple burden of malnutrition. Also, always raising awareness, nutrition education, very important. Also, the government policy, including regulatory framework, particularly labeling, proper labeling of food would be important as a solution provided by the government. Now, let me invite Honorable Minister, Dr. Lato Antonio Rarabarabo, the Minister of Health of Fiji. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, honorable ministers, excellencies, distinguished delegates. First of all, Bula Vinaka, and I sincerely hope that you're enjoying your third day of event here, which is sponsored by FAO and co-hosted by Fiji. And before I begin, just like to continue the story from Honorable Sialia, the Minister of Health from Tonga, in that, yes, we were there early in May in Geneva, and we had attended a dinner. And like what he said, from experience, as you've probably witnessed dining here in Fiji, is that we like our portions. It's what we call your mountain serve, eh? Mountain serve. So to us, where we are today in terms of NCDs, not only in terms of the effects of quantity, but also quality of food, eh? And that is why we are gathered here this week to on the topic of solutions. And for Fiji, happy to present the food safety focused on the Codex Alimentaris. What Fiji's experience. For any new initiative, I believe to be successful, you have to have a good political will and leadership and governance. That's, to me, is one of the very important things. And for Fiji's experience in that, in addressing Codex and the Fiji's experience in terms of leadership and government, we have our own very Food Safety Act of 2003. We had food safety regulations of 2009. And in 2023, we have the establishment of a national task force on food and safety. And the chairmanship is the Deputy Prime Minister. And the core role of this task force is just to provide a platform of sharing of information and ideas, developing common approaches to tackling issues that deals with nutrition and health. It is a important task force for the benefit of ensuring that food safety is met. And also one of the roles is to ensure that important food items meet required laws, guidelines, and standards. So while we adhere to international standards, we also ensure that it is contextualized to what the Fiji has at the moment. Another success story is marketing control. And then an example is food for infants and young children. That came under the regulation of 2010 under the Food Safety Act. So the regulation bans all forms of advertising and promotion of breast milk substitute to mothers and the general. While we promote breastfeeding exclusively, but there are avenues for breast milk substitute and under the regulations, and it defines products considered as BMS to include infant formula, follow-on formula for bottles and teats, and weaning foods. Again, as I mentioned, the marketing of breast milk substitute is regulated to promote breastfeeding and ensure safe and adequate nutrition for infants and young children. So again, we're starting from a very early onset of time from children before they grow into kids and adults. Another one of the likes here in the Pacific is that we love our restaurants. And as such, in terms of maintaining standards, we have restaurant grading certification programs for restaurants and food service providers. It's a government regulation is in place, and it's implemented in all municipalities and districts, and it's monitored by the Ministry of Health office. Again, the purpose is to address the enforcement and the implementation of the grading food establishment in Fiji just to ensure safety and standards are maintained in all food establishments. Another success story is the enforcement and surveillance of municipal councils, consumer councils, and our Fiji Competition and Consumer Council. Again, you need good enforcement and surveillance to ensure that the regulations are carried through and that the standards are met. Also, we have our environmental health officers trained on prosecution and investigation through the Director of Public Prosecution Office. This is something I believe that is unique for Fiji in that our environmental health officers are trained and do prosecution and investigation, and they align with the office of the Public Prosecution Office. And they have, we found that along this pathway, they have been very successful in some of the convictions that have been successful, and it allows for the same cohort or group of healthcare cadres to do the implementation, be trained in the enforcement of the regulations, and right up to the prosecution. In addition to that, there's also prosecution of non-compliant food business operators. That comes under the Ministry of Health, Medical Services and Health Department, the municipalities, and the data that have here is for this year, 11 cases have been prosecuted for non-compliance of food establishment. So keeping up with business setup, we support MSME, but we have to ensure that for MSMEs and businesses out there that do want to sell their products or food, to ensure that it is meeting the standards as required for under the regulations. Another success story is the border control improvement, the utilization of ESCAP by Ministry of Health and Medical Services. We were awarded by the Fiji Revenue and Customer Services for being the first government agency to access and utilize the system for ease of border control activities on food importation. Okay? All important foods are automatically flagged to Ministry of Health and Medical Services for post-border inspection, just to ensure that imported food complies with the food safety regulations and requirements. Again, so some of the measures, in addition to what I've mentioned, in terms of border control. And then you have the food safety management system approval, food export, ensures that food manufacturing industry in Fiji meets the minimum standards of the Codex General Principle of Good Hygiene Practices and fourth schedule of the food safety regulation through quarterly and annual audits of the HACCP plants and facilities. It facilitates trade and ensures only safe food is sold domestically and is also exported. Then, we cannot do this as a standalone Ministry of Health, of Agriculture. We do rely on the collaboration of our development partners and collaboration of our NGOs and CSOs on food safety requirements. That is a must in our progress to ensure that we have maintained the standards here in Fiji. In keeping up with SDGs as well on gender equality, training for women market vendors. our market vendors, majority of them are women, and to ensure training, raising awareness, creating awareness on market vendors, on good hygienic practices, food safety, very important, and the minimum requirements on pesticide residuals in fruits and vegetables, together with the support of UN Women on basic food safety. To the tourism sector, food supplies as part of the Ministry of Tourism, Farm to Fork concept and the initiative. Again, it's enhancing and link, a vital link, as I can say, between food safety, food security, and nutrition, and the incredible role that women plays in their contribution to economic development. So that is also recognized in our standards. Another issue that is on food industry stakeholder awareness and discussion sessions. Again, awareness is an important aspect of maintaining our standards and regulations, and as such, the stakeholders, food safety stakeholders, and the food industry are very part of the stakeholders that the Ministry of Health gets the ideas on board to see how best we move forward, because we recognize that in the Pacific, we are at the mercy of our international best practices on how we move forward. And as such, we do regular meetings with our food industry stakeholders and awareness to discuss the way forward. And as part of the Ministry of Health Medical Services, we also do public health advocacy and campaign. That is a continuous thing. We have a World Food Safety Day, and again, mass media advocacy talkback shows during this period and in the consequent period as well. And in sitting here, it's a good example. We also have interministerial discussions and collaborations. This is a Ministry of Agriculture-led initiative, and we are very grateful that the Ministry of Health is included. And because we see in tackling NCD and moving forward, it is a cross-cutting issue, whereby not only it is the responsibility of Ministry of Health, but all the relevant ministries that were invited to attend this event from the government of Fiji. And lastly, just something new is our ease of doing business on the food establishment licensing. Again, as we try to improve on our trade initiatives, in doing so, our role as issuing of license, we are again in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade to ensure that we have ease of doing business on e-systems, on food establishment licensing. Those are some of the initiatives under our codex to ensure that we adhere to safety and standards of international standards, but at the same time to ensure that we contextualize it to Fiji settings, because that will work for Fiji. And in doing so, again, stress the important point of close collaboration between interministerial agencies, development partners, and NGOs to ensure that we not only maintain the standards, but for food safety as well. So those are my few contributions today, and I'll thank you very much for the opportunity.
Honorable Minister, thank you very much for sharing exemplary policy initiatives by Fiji government to ensure safe food, quality food, to address NCD and malnutrition issues. I think he also emphasized the importance of a multi-sector approach, collaborating with different ministries, as well as collaboration with private sector, particularly SME, as well as CSO, of course, academia. So in that regard, this agri-food system approach is more important than ever to address this very complicated issue. So we very much appreciate your insights in regard to the solutions from the government perspective. But I can assure you, when you visit the headquarters of FAO in Rome, we can provide not only healthy food, which is not only for accessible, but as well as affordable. Definitely the price will not be such high in Rome. All right, now we would like to invite some different perspectives from development partners. May I invite um, our nutrition manager and scientist from UNICEF, Mr. Panjani Kamudoni. I hope. Sorry, Miss Panjani Kamudoni. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Honorable ministers, your excellencies and distinguished guests. Before I share our reflection from UNICEF, drawing from the work that we've been doing here in Fiji, along with the different governments of the Pacific countries, as well as our fellow UN agencies, FAO, WFP, I would also just like to express a word of gratitude to FAO and the Fiji government for spearheading this gathering, that we can reflect and be forward-looking in terms of what can be done beyond the agri-food systems, focusing on nutrition and dedicating a day today just to focus on enhancing better nutrition. So the few minutes that I have to share the reflections, to bring in a perspective on what has already been shared, the good examples that has been shared by the honorable ministers from Tonga and Fiji. I just want to sort of like give a context of the scale of the problem of nutrition, but also most importantly, reflecting on the contextual drivers of nutrition. And then from there, then we'll sort of propose a few solutions which are really not new. They just echo and harness what we've already heard from the earlier speakers. So maybe we've already heard of the fact that the problem of nutrition in the Pacific is a bit complex, in the sense that we have the coexistence on one hand of undernutrition, and in some of the countries as high as 30%, and on the other hand also the growing of overweight and obesity, and then of course the hidden hunger, micronutrient deficiencies. And underlying these three, this sort of like complicated facet of malnutrition, there are three domains that, reflecting on experiences across the globe, have been shown to be key drivers, or rather key entry points for solutions for addressing nutrition. First and foremost is food, and so we are quite already on track, reflecting over the agri-food system and all that we've reflected on, and then practices, which is sort of like a thin layer of how best social behavior change for nutrition can be harnessed, mainstreamed, and scaled up. And then a third domain of services across all systems, not only the health system, but also the agriculture extension, education, meals in schools, and water, hygiene and sanitation services across all these being responsive or being designed and delivered in a way that's responsive to nutrition. And when it comes to food, on one hand, we have the agri-food system, but also on the other hand, we have the commercial food system. And the reality that we have is that when consumers are purchasing or are rather acquiring food, they will purchase based on whatever is most affordable. So I think the first domain is very, very key to ensure that we have regulations which will actually work in favor of making healthier food options. For example, locally produced food to be more affordable, more accessible, and much more available. This in itself is crucial. And when it comes to the commercial food system across the globe, what has been consistently shown to work, and here in the Pacific, there are already initiatives towards that, almost in all the Pacific countries, is first and foremost the controlled marketing of unhealthy foods. And this would come along in a few domains. Number one, controlling the marketing in terms of where unhealthy food is sold, for example, protecting school environments, but also controlling the marketing in terms of advertising. So for example, in as simple as TV peak viewership hours being regulated, that unhealthy foods cannot be advertised in such times, and also most importantly, truth in marketing, front of pack labeling. So mandating or rather regulating that the food industry should have the obligation to put consumer-friendly food warning labels, so that then it's clear for consumers that when they are purchasing something, this is high in sugar or high in salts or high in fats. And just to give a small little example of countries where these regulations have been tried out, maybe before going to that, the other side of the marketing is the taxation, which almost all the countries are doing, but can also be even increased. And evaluations and studies which have evaluated these regulations nearly in all countries that they have been implemented, they all consistently show that once regulations along these lines are enacted, there is reduction in the purchases of unhealthy foods. It's just that the magnitude of the reductions would differ, but there is consistency that regulations which either tax more unhealthy foods based on a certain threshold. So for example, already underpinning to say beyond this threshold of sugar, there would be more taxes, and also not differentiating small manufacturers from big manufacturers, but having a cross-cutting kind of regulation. They would all, especially they've shown that purchases as well as consumption have declined of unhealthy foods. And then when it comes to the issue of taxes, again, as already highlighted, also the evidence is similarly the same. So before trying to look at the other domain, and now to pin down probably a forward-looking effort that can be harnessed more, the importance of relooking into food marketing regulations along these lenses of controlling, protecting certain environments, marketing, and front of pack labeling or truth in marketing needs to be enhanced further and needs to be reprioritized. And the effort to do this, in the end, what it will entail is that it would create space for the agri-food system to flourish, as there will be a steady market for local produce that is used locally, when consumers would be more opting for locally produced foods because they are more affordable and they're more accessible. And then moving on to the other domain, which also requires to be relooked at in terms of the services. I think highlighting, first of all, the education system as a critical service, both in the sense that a single meal a day, a single nutritious meal a day provided in school would not only contribute to the actual nutritional intakes of the learners or of all adolescents, since we know young children, older children and adolescents are the majority are in schools, but it also builds in the long run a new culture to transition back to indigenous diets, healthier diets. So this also is an area that almost all governments are thinking of, and some are already doing, providing meals in schools 2 times a week or so, but it requires to be relooked at and reprioritized more. And also the social protection system. I think in the Pacific, it really stands out that nearly in every country there is a social protection or cash assistance scheme to cushion vulnerable households. And we know from the social determinants of health that households which are in the lower socioeconomic quartile are more prone to poorer health outcomes and even poorer closing up, I think if we are to benefit more from initiatives or guidelines which are articulate as the food dietary guidelines, these 2 complementary domains are required to be relooked at, and maybe just lastly also to emphasize the need for multi-sectoral governance structures where an M&D framework can be developed to track and to monitor key actions across each and every sector with regards to promoting good nutrition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. As you know, 3 Rome-based agency have been closely working with the UNICEF to address this better nutrition issue. She has shared various interventions which the UN agencies jointly working together to support member states to address the challenges in regard to the various forms of malnutrition. Now, let me invite Mr. Chris Dale, Biosecurity and International Capacity Development Specialist from Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry of Australia. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Wulawami Nijuan and Bula Vinaka. I'd like to acknowledge the Honourable Ministers from Tonga and Fiji on the panel, Your Excellencies, senior officials, fellow panel members, colleagues and friends. I'd like to start by paying my respects to the Yuin people, the traditional custodians and inhabitants from the small fishing village in Australia where I and my family live. And I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional inhabitants, custodians, elders past and present from here on the land on which we meet this morning. So my name's Chris Dale. I'm a biosecurity specialist and director within the Australian Department of Agriculture, Forestries and Fisheries, and I lead our technical capacity development programs across the Asia Pacific region. I've been asked to provide some reflections on the proposed solutions that we've talked about and we've heard about this morning on how development partners, such as my department, DAF, and other Australian agencies, including DFAT, ACR, CSIRO, and we have some of our colleagues from DFAT and CSIRO here today, and how we can contribute to the replication and expansion of food-based dietary guidelines and the integration of agriculture, nutrition, and education into school gardens, as well as the implementation and harmonisation of these solutions across the broader region. So as a general reflection, Australia is deeply concerned about the high levels of food insecurity globally, and we are committed to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We recognise that food insecurity and malnutrition in all of its forms is a priority area for Pacific small island developing states. We support the development and implementation of food-based dietary guidelines at both the national level and the regional level that consider environmental sustainability and help people eat healthier while reducing the environmental impact. We also recognise that food-based dietary guidelines can help focus communities on how to eat both a healthy and climate-friendly diet and how they can be tailored and customised at a national level. We recognise that development partners such as Australia and other regional partners, as well as global partners, can support multi-sector collaboration to support healthy and sustainable diets from a climate resilient Pacific food system. And as an Australian development partners, we also continue to work with the Pacific community, the FAO and the World Food Programme and other regional programs to improve food security and reporting across the region, which again was highlighted as one of the priorities out of these solutions. So from my own experiences working as a technical specialist within both DAF and within the DFAT Agricultural and Food Security program here in the region, I'm very confident that development partners can and we should effectively support the coordination and implementation of these programs and these solutions at a bilateral and regional level. And implementation of initiatives such as the Pacific School Food Network is an excellent example of these initiatives. The underlying theme of these proposed solutions is essentially awareness, regulation, and education. And as a scientist and the father of 3 young daughters, these solutions are all very close to my heart. So again, in sort of the spirit of storytelling, my 3 daughters' schools all have schools garden attached to their classrooms, where they learn how to propagate, to grow, to identify pests and disease, to harvest, and to eat the fruit and vegetables straight from the gardens next to their classrooms, and also how to prepare and cook these foods in a healthy and a nutritious way. So these organic, unprocessed and nutritionally rich foods and that education and that learning from a very young age is instrumental. I've also visited a number of school gardens in the most remote villages of Southlight District in Papua New Guinea, Highlands in Timor-Leste, where I lived and worked for many years, and remote island communities in Solomon Islands. And I've seen the same impacts of these school gardens on children and those school communities right across the region, and it gives me genuine hope for these communities. So my twin daughters are only 4 years old, but they're learning those skills and they're learning that awareness of fresh fruit and vegetables and natural agriculture systems from a very young age. And I'm confident that this awareness and education will guide their food and nutritional choices for decades to come, as I do for your children and your families right across the region. And again, from the several school gardens that are being implemented and sustained right across these programs. So these solutions will influence generational change from the home level up through to the village level, at a national level and a regional level. And these solutions should remain a priority for developing partners. So there are a number of other ways in which development partners can support and enable these solutions. And some of those include supporting climate adaptation, by helping farmers reduce exposure to short-term climate risks, which we've talked about in several sessions this week, while building resilience to cope with long-term stresses, supporting increased production of locally grown nutritious foods using climate-resilient agriculture technologies, including the work of the Atoll Food Futures Program, supporting the Pacific community and the Centre for Pacific Crops and Trees, or CPAC, in the work that they're doing around regional gene bank technologies and innovations, and providing those propagation materials to communities and throughout the region. Supporting the Market Development Facility to develop private sector market and production opportunities. And from my own program, building and promoting the importance of plant health, animal health, and environmental health under that One Health banner for better nutritional outcomes, and to minimising the dependency of importing highly processed, generally phytosanitary treatments, so fumigated, methyl bromide fumigated products, and fresh fruit and vegetables being imported, and highly processed meat products and poultry products that might have been shipped, sort of sitting in countries for several months before their shipping, and really sort of reducing the nutritional value. So that local level plant health, animal health, and environmental health is really critical. So in summary, development partners have a very important role, not only in supporting the replication and expansion of these solutions, but also in the implementation and harmonisation of these solutions at the national level and the regional level, across their very broad network of countries, programs, investments, networks and resources, including funding. Development partners, including Australia, should continue to support and strengthen these opportunities and initiatives around nutritional awareness, messaging and education. And I thank the Honourable Ministers and the FAO for their leadership on this very important issue. Vanaka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dale, for strong commitment by the government of Australia. We very much appreciate the contribution by the development partners in our efforts to promote healthy diets to address malnutrition issues. In particular, in the effort of scaling up of school gardening, which have various benefits to the people. Also promoting One Health approach. There is definitely a very important role of the development partners to support the Pacific Island countries. So thank you very much for this perspective. According to my schedule, we are running over the time, but as I mentioned at the introduction, I would like to have a couple of questions or comments from the floor to have more interactive discussions. So please raise your hand. Perhaps you can first identify yourself, then put questions or comments to the panelists here concisely, so that we can have a few more questions or comments from the floor. I see a gentleman over there. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this session has been very useful for all of us. I think many of you have raised the importance of the problem, let's say, the dimension of the problem. I think maybe it's placed in a very big terms, but I think many people in the region is dying of a chronic overdose of trans fat, sugar, and it's a very serious situation in terms of the huge amounts of deaths that is provoking this situation. It's very complex. I think you have already raised some of the issues, the colleague of UNICEF as well, no? From one side, the carrot, let's say, the changes on education that they are needed, but on the other also the stick, no? The changes of legislation that they are needed. And I wanted especially to raise two questions. I don't know if they have been mentioned strongly enough. For me, one of them is the role on education, not only of the school system, but also inside the family of the young mothers. I would underline. I don't know if young mothers and fathers, but depending on the gender gap of each country and all that. But I think mothers between 15 and 35, I think they are big vectors of change. They are relatively low number of people to target. They are huge vectors of change, and they are the ones that made the strategic decisions of the intake inside of the family. And I think they are a very important target. And the second reflection from my side, I wanted to raise, well, I haven't said that, I'm with my colleague Olivier from the European Union. And the second reflection I wanted to raise is, well, you have mentioned the role of vectors, cultural vectors, as churches, for example, or as, I don't know, tradition. But I think the two the very important cultural factors of change nowadays, especially for young people, young mothers as well, can be role models, can be who influence us now, influencers, can be key people on each society. In Tonga can be one person, in New Caledonia, where I come from, it can be another person, but it's key football players, key actresses, key role models that can serve as a vehicle for an entry point. And I give an example only. In Spain, I'm from there. We had a football player called Johan Cruyff who liked to smoke a lot. And then one day he changed. He was detected a lung cancer, and he was in the bench eating a lollipop. It's not a good example here because he was changing to the to the lollipop, but it's just to say that visualizing this change for many kids, it was very important to say that a role model, that an important person, that a reference football player is not embarrassed to eat a lollipop and is not a tough guy smoking. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this is very important comments rather than questions. I fully agree. We need to do more than the educational approach to raise awareness of this healthy diet, the role of the communities and the influential actors in the societies. Always we have to take into consideration. Let's try to take a few more questions, maybe two more questions. I see a gentleman back there. Please.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. Willie here, a village boy and also a researcher. Thank you very much for all the great sharing, and congratulations for the progress made so far. I tried to write a proposal one time, and I looked at the Blue Pacific documents and trying to provide some of the regional priorities related to non-communicable diseases. It was very hard to find in the Blue Pacific documents. And then went to the Samoa Agreement, the European Union ACP document, beautiful coverage there. And I think I'm just speaking and reflecting on that area from the regional prioritization level of addressing non-communicable diseases, when it's really hard to find it in the regional documents. There is a status of food, as we all know. I'm just thinking out loud here of trying to revolutionize the thinking and the legislative processes, as well as including the indigenous governance systems in trying to redefine what ultra-processed food is, and also redefine the value of vegetables and the value of fruits in our diets and in our governance systems. I'm saying this because we look at some of the zero tax, the food policy. It's actually normalizing ultra-processed foods, because most of the foods we are trying to make it much more cheaper are some of the ultra-processed foods. And it's also interesting, I was in Rome for the global food on the indigenous food system, and I had a discussion with a colleague from Mexico, and she's one of the members of the high-level panel on food security. And she said, in Mexico, they had a legislation that they can take a school principal to court if they find an ultra-processed food in the school canteen. And then I was thinking, wow, that's really cool thing to look at, because sometimes I think approaching NCDs from a normal kind of way, it's an abnormal crisis that we do have now. It's a crazy crisis that requires revolution. And the second thing about it, I think we need to revolutionize the thinking of our financial models, because we're dealing with a long-term crisis here that will require behavioral change, but we're still dealing with 1, 2 year, 3 year type of projects. And changing of mindset here is not just for the community, it's also with the development partners. To change that financial models to 5, 10 years, a much more programmatic approach, not just in the strategic term, but in actually financial commitments. And include researchers are in its place, because we really need to measure our successes and also our failures. And we need to learn from that. There are a lot of great food system researchers in the room, and we are really ready to help to provide the impact evaluation methodologies in the core design all the way throughout. So if you need to know more about the roles of us researchers, just ask me and I will point you to Jemima, we have Sarah and all of the people here in the room. We are ready to serve with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very important comments. I fully concur your points. Actually, this is a very important issue for the region, and this is definitely the regional priority. And as we have heard, the various initiatives, solutions, governments, development partners, the UN agencies, intergovernmental organizations, they are all working hard to address these issues with the various initiatives. Also, the long-term perspective, very important. Based on this long-term strategy, we have to develop concrete actions to make difference or make changes. So I very much appreciate comments, observations from the floor. Unfortunately, because of time management, I think we have to conclude this session here. So once again, thank you very much for excellent comments, observations from the honorable panel members. Please let me invite a round of big applause to the members. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, JJ, and thanks to the two health ministers from Fiji and Tonga, Dr. Pinjani from UNICEF, and Mr. Chris Dale. Thank you very much, everybody. NCD is such an interesting subject to talk about in the Pacific, so we could have gone longer. We could have gone longer to entertain more discussions here, but thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have another subject that is closely related to NCDs, but it's also cross-cutting. This is about data gaps. If you're going to talk about NCDs, how do you make progress? You need data. You're going to talk about better production, better nutrition, better life, climate change, you need data in the Pacific. Because of this, I will invite to the podium the Honorable Tulupe Pomolenuku Wasimo, the Minister of Communication, Information and Technology, Samoan. Honorable Minister, please, you can come to the podium and have your seat. I will also invite Honorable Harry Xavier, Minister of Agriculture, Livestock, Forestry, Fisheries, and Biosecurity from Vanuatu. And then I will also invite Honorable Vanuatu Rose Toki Brown, the Minister of Agriculture, Coca Islands. And I will also invite to the stage Dr. Sarah Burkhardt from the University of the Sunshine Coast, Madam Andy Fontoy, the head of ESCAP. She's a sub-regional coordinator for ESCAP. You can kindly come to the podium. Yes, madam. And then I will also invite Dr. Jose A. Rosario. He's the FAO chief economist. Will also come to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now invite Honorable Wansimo, the Minister of ICT Samoa, to kindly deliver the opening remarks. Honorable Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. Talofa and good morning to everyone. Honorable Ministers and FAO Directors, FAO Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen, our small island states family. It's an honor to be here. It's a privilege to welcome you to this very important, crucial session. We just came out of the discussion, nutrition, and its importance to our region. But what's missing in there, it's the information and having those critical and valuable information connected, which brings us to this very moment and discussion of the missing data and the missing information. We are in the era of digital information, and it is important as a region to work together and put that available information into good use. Over the next hour, we will delve into the challenges and solutions related to data collection, that are vital for the development of our Pacific Islands communities. Data is the backbone of informed decision-making, yet many small island developing states face significant challenges in this area. Unlike large nations with extensive resources for data management, we are often content with limited capacity, making it difficult to capture the full picture of our needs and progress. I think we heard from one of our researchers recently the difficulties that we're facing having the available data when it's needed. The voluntary national reviews presented this year by Palau, Samoa, Solomon Islands, and Vanuatu shows that the Pacific region faces significant data gaps due to the limited national strategic statistical capacity, reliance on external assistance, and challenges in timely data collection. Moving forward, recommendations have been made to strengthen the statistical frameworks, enhance data collections and interpretations, and utilize centralized platforms. In this session, we will explore existing specific and proven solutions to enhance timely access to quality data and statistics for sustainable development in the Pacific. I am eager to hear from our distinguished ministers, representatives, who will present their insights on how we can bridge these gaps. Additionally, I look forward to the reactions from our panelists regarding how development partners can assist and aid in replicating and expanding these solutions across our region. Let us work together to enhance our data capabilities and drive meaningful changes in the Pacific. I wish you all a productive and engaging session.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My oversight, I forgot to invite another panelist, and that's Mr. David Garner from the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, Australia. Sir, please join the panel. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the excellent introduction. I saw that it's a very important topic, so I could see that you spoke from your heart. Very, very important. At this point, I will invite Dr. Jose Mocayo. He's a chief statistician for FAO to kindly give a short presentation on the technical context related to this subject matter. Dr. Rosario, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good morning to all honorable ministers, distinguished participants. Good morning. Today, I am honored to introduce this session that discusses the crucial role of timely data and statistics in fostering sustainable development across the Pacific Island countries. Our focus will be on enhancing the production, analysis, and dissemination of data that drives informed decision-making and effective policy implementation. As the chief statistician of FAO, I will always be thrilled when data as a topic is brought high in the political and development agenda. Why? Because data is unfortunately commonly seen as an afterthought, when it should always be a vital input in the policy cycle, starting from the design of policies until the moment in which we have to monitor and evaluate the policies. For that reason, I would like to praise the decisive actions of the Pacific countries to bring data to the top of the agenda. And data has been indeed highlighted as a priority by countries in the region in many recent meetings of the governing bodies of FAO, starting from the Asian Pacific Commission of Agricultural Statistics, the 174th session of the FAO Council, and the 37th session of the FAO Regional Conference for Asia and the Pacific just in February this year. This shows definitely the importance that this region gives to data and to the endeavor of unlocking the power of data for policy making. Let me see if technology helps. Yeah. Now, the Pacific region faces significant challenges in data availability, characterized by the scarcity of timely information and critical statistics. All of this in the context of growing demand for timely and standardized data. This demand encompasses national needs, but also international needs like the ones of the Sustainable Development Agenda. Now, I'm a statistician, so I will be a bad statistician and I cannot prove my points using data, right? So let me give you examples about the situation of data scarcity in the region. Let's start with the most basic statistics on agricultural and food. Only 29% of the countries of the Pacific produce annual data on agricultural production. At the same time, only 20% report data on trade. Another figure is that 15.4% of the countries produce annual food security data. And more in general, the average reporting rate of the Pacific SIDS on SDG indicators is 24%, which means that on average, a country reports at max 5 out of the 21 indicators that are related to food and agriculture on SDGs. A final example is that only 24% of the Pacific SID countries report data on fisheries capture. Now, this situation doesn't exist randomly. It is explained by a combination of factors that serves as obstacles to produce and disseminate data. There are structural factors, such as the inherent logistical problems to do data collection operations in a context where some islands are remote and dispersed, and there is problems to access them. Another factor is the fragmentation among various agencies responsible of data collection that leads to gaps in data coverage and inconsistencies in information. There are also limitations on the existing statistical capacities, which together with the lack of adequate technological infrastructure, hinders the adoption of modern and effective methods of data collection, analysis, and dissemination. Finally, the limited resources devoted to data collection is an important factor to explain the persistent situation of scarcity of data in the region. Therefore, it is vital that we address these data gaps and the obstacles. If not, the capacity of Pacific countries to provide evidence to policymaking is seriously compromised. Without quality data, our decision-making process becomes reactive rather than proactive, undermining our agricultural development and food security and nutrition efforts. To overcome these challenges, we must strategically strengthen our statistical system throughout the Pacific. And to do this, there are some aspects or principles that we need to take into account in our strategy. First, we need to prioritize our efforts, identify improved solutions and cost-effective methods to address these gaps. Second, we need collaborative efforts at all levels, between institutions inside of the government, also between Pacific SIDS countries that can share expertise and good practices, and also between countries and technical institutions and donors that can bring expertise and resources to transform the current situation. Finally, we need innovation through the adoption of new technologies and alternative data sources to reduce costs and fill data gaps in an accelerated manner. The background paper that you have at your disposal presents existing solutions that can help bridge data gaps in the Pacific. The selected proven solutions can be classified based on the information they provide and also based on the catalytic effects, including innovation, technology, and capacity development. Proven solutions that can effectively address our data challenges include the creation of information systems based on agricultural censuses and surveys, which are the backbone of agricultural statistics. Includes also the need to run household income and expenditure surveys to characterize food consumption patterns, diets, and food security based on solutions such as the Food Insecurity Experience Scale. Another important solution is the collection of health and demographic surveys to compile data on nutritional outcomes, very important, as many have already pointed out in this session. And also the use of post-disaster need assessments to capture the impact of disasters in agriculture in this region that is so vulnerable to the effects of climate. Modernizing our data collection methods is also crucial. The utilization of mobile technology and air observation data are solutions that can significantly enhance our statistical capacities. By leveraging these existing tools, we can ensure timely access to quality data that informs our decision for sustainable development. Finally, the implementation of proof models to strengthen statistical capacities can lead the way of building sustainable process of data generation in the Pacific. To set the stage now, I would like to focus on two of the solutions highlighted in the document. And I would like to start with the FAO's Global Strategy for Agriculture and Rural Statistics, which is a cost-effective solution to enhance countries' statistical capacities. This is based on the successful model implemented in countries in Africa and Central and South Asia, which operates through the collaboration with national statistical offices and ministries and key regional partners. This solution is based on three pillars. The first pillar is the one of training of staff in national statistical office and ministries based on module packages that are tailored to the needs of the countries and consider, of course, their priorities. Some examples of these training packages include the ones of collecting data on agricultural production. There is other packages on collecting data on farm economy, also on food losses, on the collection of the Food Insecurity Experience Scale, on training of constructing master sample frames, on collecting data on small-scale fisheries. All of these examples of packages that countries can pick, okay, the ones that fit better their needs and priorities. The second pillar is the one of in-situ technical assistance, in which FAO supports countries on the implementation of data activities based on the training received. For example, if a country plans to collect data on food losses after receiving the training, the technical assistance is given to accompany the process and solidify the process. The third pillar is the one that directly supports data collection. This focus on the collection of food security data based on the Food Security Experience Scale. The aim is to have at any single moment an updated status of the food security of the country. Currently, FAO is working with donor partners in putting together a chapter of this strategy on the Pacific SIDS. the project has been developed and initial resources have been already received by the Australian government to start the pillar of training in 2025. We will soon start engaging with countries in the Pacific to start implementation. At the same time, we are looking for other interested donors to be able to implement the other components of the project. A second solution I would like to dive is the one of the 50 by 2030, which aims to transform agricultural data system in 50 countries around the world by 2030. This is a multi-agency partnership between FAO, the World Bank, and IFAD, and focus on supporting countries to collect fundamental data through annual agricultural surveys, which is the key to have a permanent system of information and evidence. In this approach, the initiative uses an innovative financial model that combines either resources for data collection on one hand, and on the other hand, donor contribution for technical assistance. In that sense, the resources that donor contributes leverage a more bigger pool of resources, which are the ones that come from the IDA funds, to remove one of the biggest obstacles that countries have for generating agricultural statistics, which is the lack of enough funding for data collection. Currently, the World Bank is negotiating with countries a regional IDA operation for the Pacific countries, which will be used for the future implementation of the 50 by 2030 in the region. This is expected to be operational in 2026. To prepare for this, the World Bank and FAO has started already to engage with donors to mobilize resources for the component of technical assistance. Summarizing, as we move forward, I propose several key recommendations to effectively bridge data gaps. We must prioritize strengthening capacity development in our statistical office, as I have already explained. We need to standardize data collection methods and leverage administrative data to build comprehensive data sets. Additionally, we need to invest in ICT infrastructure. We need to leverage innovations, foster collaboration and partnerships, and mobilize dedicated funding and enhance data use for informed decision-making across all levels. Together, these steps will pave the way for a more evidence-based approach to agriculture development in the Pacific region. With this, I would like to thank you for the attention, and I look forward to collaborate with all of you to enhance data production and access for sustainable development in this beautiful region of the Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jose. Excellent context you have set. The issue of data, very, very important in the Pacific.
Thank you very much.
I will now invite, there will be two solutions considering the context that Dr. Jose just said. So we'll have two solutions to share. One of them will be on post-disaster needs assessment from Vanuatu, and the other one will be on agricultural census from Cook Islands. So for now, I will invite Dr. Ravo to present the solution on post-disaster needs assessment.
Thank you. I will present the post-disaster need assessment as a vital solution for addressing data gaps in the context of disaster impact assessment. Presentation will cover several keys: the importance of data in making decisions, challenges in data availability for PDNA, the PDNA framework itself, and FAO technical assistance. Data is crucial for impact decision making, especially in the face of climate change. Vanuatu faces increasing vulnerability with an average of 3 significant cyclones per decade, affecting vital sectors like agriculture and tourism. Following recent disaster, the government initiated a robust response plan to recover and rebuild, highlighting the need for timely, accurate data information in this process. Despite the agency, Vanuatu faced significant challenges in data availability for disaster assessment. Key data gaps include baseline information on demographic hazards and economic impacts. We encounter issues like inconsistent methodologies, geographical isolation, high cost of data collection, and poor institutional coordination among agencies. These challenges hinder effective resources allocated and recovery for planning. The DNA frameworks offers a country-led coordination assessment process that involves multiple sectors. Its methodology focuses on a human recovery approach, evaluating pre-disaster context, disaster effects, and the impacts while formulating recovery strategies. Vanuatu 2023 BFE makes a contribution to this process with the history of assessments every 2 years in the Pacific region. For the recommendation, for sustainable expansion, we must define criteria for future assessment and integrate them into routine disaster preparedness and risk management. Improving data collection and assessment is essential for effective PDNA deliverables. We also need to maintain reliable baseline data and hence collaboration among institutions with strengthening national capacity. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Atuan. Very interesting to hear from someone from Vanuatu. I think you all know that every year, probably in Vanuatu, you will have 2 cyclones damaging agricultural access, but also several other economic assets. So it's very, very important in that context to conduct post-disaster needs assessments that can help you understand what has been lost. I will now invite Madam Temerama, the Secretary for the Ministry of Agriculture, Cook Islands, to share solutions on agriculture census. Madam, you have the floor.
Joseph, kia ora tātou katoa. Nice to see you all from the front of the room rather than on the side. I was honored to be called up as the Minister for Agriculture, but just to let you know, I was now correctly identified by Joseph. My minister is still at her table and has given me the opportunity to come to the front and present to you. I know I am, or we as a panel are standing between you and morning tea. And I know also that there are time limits given to our presentation. But with the indulgence of the panel, I'm going to take my whole time given to me, plus more. Thank you. My presentation refers to one vital solution for addressing data gaps in our agriculture sector. Our focus is on combining agricultural census and surveys into an integrated agricultural monitoring information system that can enhance our data capabilities. So I'll begin with an introduction of our agricultural data context in the Cook Islands. I'll discuss the challenges we face in the agricultural data availability. I'll highlight the current initiatives that we are currently undertaking to bridge these gaps, and then outline a potential way forward and recommendations for FAO's continued support in this vital area. The Cook Islands relies heavily on several key sources for agricultural data, particularly our Census of Agriculture, which has been conducted 4 times in 1988, 2000, 2011, and the ongoing 2021-2023 census round. This infrequent data collection translates to an average of 1 census every 12 years over the last 36 years, which poses challenges for timely and effective decision-making. Additionally, we have initiatives like the Ag Intel, Agriculture Intelligence program that we run within the ministry, which provides us quarterly monitoring of agricultural conditions in our southern islands and market monitoring focused on Rarotonga's main market, Punanganui, and roadside vendors. We also have hydroponics production monitoring for our northern islands, helping us capture diverse agricultural activities across our islands. Challenges, I think, is similar across our Pacific Island development states, because despite our efforts, we face geographic isolation limit coverage, especially in our outer islands, which leads then to skewed data and policy decisions. Our limited capacities and resources mean that data collection can be prohibitively costly, resulting in incomplete data sets and inefficient resource allocation. Frequent natural disasters disrupt data collection efforts, causing delays in reporting and analysis that can hinder our responses to agricultural crises. This was the case with our agricultural census, which was delayed in 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The gaps in agricultural data make it difficult to create evidence-based policies, ultimately undermining our agricultural development and food security. Furthermore, limited access to modern technologies and inefficient digital infrastructure hinder our ability to access timely and up-to-date data. We also face challenges due to insufficient statistical human resources, which impacts our ability to analyze and interpret data effectively. Including inconsistent data across sources complicates comparability, and the lack of funding hampers our ability to implement necessary data initiatives, perpetuating existing gaps. So for our current initiatives to bridge these agricultural data gaps, we are actively working to with FAO on several initiatives supported by FAO technical assistance. Pardon me. Our agricultural census and survey system is being strengthened with an analysis of recent census data expected to be published by the end of this year. In early 2025, we plan to collect and compile data on sustainable development goals related to agricultural productivity, sustainability, and gender equality, becoming the second country in the Pacific region to do so after Fiji this year. We are revamping our agriculture monitoring system to enhance data collection methodologies and ensure regular updates for ongoing relevance. Our staff from the Ministry of Agriculture is participating in various FAO regional trainings, improving their skills in data collection and analysis. Further training is planned to develop expertise in modern agricultural tools and techniques. Additionally, we are leveraging drone and earth observation data in collaboration with the ADB to improve our agriculture area mapping and measurement methods. Our potential way forward and recommendation for FAO ongoing action and support. Looking ahead, we kindly request that the FAO continue supporting the Cook Islands in integrating modern data collection with solutions like the 50x2030 initiative and the FAO Global Strategy for Agricultural and Rural Statistics. Key priorities include mobilizing resources to ensure the long-term sustainability of our agricultural statistical system. We aim to strengthen our agricultural monitoring system, enhancing efficiency through better integration with initiatives such as the FAO Digital Village Initiative. This involves improving digital infrastructure and connectivity, especially in remote outer islands, and utilizing mobile phone data collection and other innovative approaches. Furthermore, we plan to continue capacity development for our staff by increasing access to technical training and providing innovative, automated tools for timely data processing and reporting. And finally, I thank you all for your attention, support, and continued collaboration, because together we can work towards bridging our agricultural data gaps and fostering sustainable development in the Cook Islands and advancing these initiatives further. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Temaraman. I'm just checking here to make sure I'm not overlooking anybody. Usually I don't drink coffee. I tried that this morning and then I have become very forgetful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, after hearing from the government representatives, I would like to open the floor on to our technical experts. It's very, very important. This is why our FAO Director-General created this platform to narrow the gap in terms of interaction between research and practice. So we are very, very happy today that we have people from academia joining FAO technical, UN technical experts, but also people from resource partners like Australia. So now I will invite Dr. Sarah Burkhardt from the University of the Sunshine Coast. She has also been deeply involved in the Pacific in terms of data gathering. She's actually the lead analyst for an initiative led by FAO, for which we have published our first Pacific overview of nutrition and food security report. It's a replica of the global SOFI, and also which is produced at the regional level. So she couldn't be better to offer her technical perspectives on this issue. Dr. Burkhardt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Joseph. Good morning, Honourable Ministers, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests and colleagues. I would like to start by thanking the Government of Fiji and FAO for their organisation of this wonderful event. It's been an inspiring few days, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to be here in this session and to provide a perspective from academia of how we can contribute to replication and scaling up of solutions. I am an academic myself. I have a human nutrition background, and I am based at the Australian Centre for Pacific Islands Research, hosted at the University of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. As Dr. Vili has noted earlier this week, and also probably more engaging with his most recent comments, it is with much appreciation academics and researchers are invited to be part of these discussions and contribute their perspective. We have heard how data and evidence generation alongside traditional knowledge plays a critical role in policy and practice. And I see many opportunities for researchers to assist in solutions to fill data gaps, like those we have seen highlighted today and this week, especially in the design and evaluation phase. However, to do this, we need genuine partnerships and understanding of needs and of the context. As researchers, we're often seen as the people who collect, analyse and interpret data. I actually did a quick search online to see what non-researchers actually think we do as well. While there were many responses, most were along the lines of conduct scientific studies, plan and carry out experiments, collect, record, analyse data and results, and publish and disseminate your findings by attending conferences and writing manuscripts. And while we do this, I believe we have more to offer. As researchers, we are trained to be critical thinkers, to question and to think outside the box. We can take sometimes very large amounts of information, which is complex, and we can synthesize this and distill this down into key points and messages. As researchers, we can support activities by contributing to the development of research questions and guiding the research process. We can also contribute by sorting through and assessing both peer-reviewed and grey literature to synthesize what is currently known about particular topics or areas and activities, as well as the evidence base that is available to understand possible outcomes or reasons for these. Depending on one's area of expertise, we can also assist with the design of process and measures. For example, pre and post testing of the effectiveness of or impact of activities. We can also assist with critically thinking about methods and tools, including how to ensure that the most useful information is captured. This can play an important role, particularly in supporting monitoring and evaluation activities. However, we as researchers need to consider the how, what, and why of data collection very carefully. As experts in diverse areas, we can become focused on the topics we're most interested in. This is useful to generate knowledge, but we also need to make sure that we value the resources, including those who contribute to our research, by not doing research for research's sake. We need to ensure that we don't reinvent the wheel, and we need to work collaboratively to ensure that the data we collect is meaningful and of value to communities, governments, and stakeholders. For example, when we delve into the peer-reviewed literature on Pacific food security, nutrition, and agri-food systems, there are a range of methods and approaches used to generate evidence. While this is to be expected that different approaches will utilize these different methods, discrepancies in data collection methods, analysis, and interpretation can limit comparability and opportunities to pull data sets. Most of the studies that we find in the literature at the moment report on small samples, and these are often not generalizable to larger populations. This can also limit the evidence base we have for policy and practice decision making. By partnering with other groups and organizations, we can collaborate and pool our resources to collect larger and more representative data sets. We also need more mechanisms to identify and share what we are working on when we plan projects, not when we publish our findings. We need to do this to better utilize our resources and develop data sets that are truly representative and that add real value to our understanding of food security, nutrition, and agri-food systems. While we as researchers often present our findings in peer-reviewed journals in a process that can take a significant amount of time, sometimes limiting the currentness of the data we have, these are often also highly written in a highly technical manner. This is useful for our research colleagues, but not necessarily for others across the food system. While publishing our work in peer-reviewed journals is an important and expected part of a researcher's role, we can also collaborate to support dissemination activities, including highlighting key outcomes and the implications of these in a range of ways. This, for example, may be through presentations, short reports, research briefs, infographics, and policy briefs, to ensure that this information is clearly communicated and well received by a range of stakeholders. While we recognise the need to acknowledge differences and contextualise research methods, there could be ways to address this by working together. By focusing on genuine partnerships, something that has been spoken about a lot this week, researchers can better understand the data gaps and need, and then focus resources on activities that purposely work to fill these gaps. Collaborating with academia and researchers also often opens up and expands networks and can further support resourcing and provide different perspectives. So in summary, and again, I think I'm taking Dr. Vili's words here, as an academic community, we are here and we are keen to be involved in activities to support the research design process, the synthesis of evidence, and to help fill the data gaps that we have. Thank you again to the organisers for the opportunity to be part of this rich discussion and put forward this academic and research perspective. Vanaka.
Thank you, Sarah. I would now invite Andy Fong Toy, Head of ESCAP, UN ESCAP, Sub-Regional Office for the Pacific Islands. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Honourable Ministers, senior officials, ladies and gentlemen. In all the consultations that we have in the Pacific, there is a consistent challenge that is identified, and that is the challenge of data. So what I'd like to do in my short intervention today is to talk about these broad issues relating to data production and gaps in the Pacific. In particular, I'd like to cover managing the country burden, ensuring that our Pacific country priorities are being met, what are the actual data gaps, and what what we as development partners can do to ease the burdens on our Pacific countries. Country capacity to meet all demands of users, including development partners, is minimal in most Pacific Island countries and territories. And therefore, we need to develop ways in which we can support this work, which focuses on the needs of the countries and which is manageable. At the moment, virtually no country is successfully reporting progress against their national development plans on a regular basis, which extends to work on monitoring progress at the ministry level for sector plans. The National Development Plan in particular should be the priority reporting process for countries in the Pacific, yet little support is provided to countries for undertaking this. Reporting of progress against the SDGs is also limited, and we heard this morning from our colleague from Vanuatu, with most countries not paying much attention to the processes outside of the times when they submit their VNRs, which is not the way it should be. So how do we ensure that country priorities are being met? Not all the global SDG indicators are considered high priority by countries, as evident by how few of them are included in their national development plans. There are 231 SDG indicators, which I think is problematic in itself for our Pacific countries, with many countries having less in the Pacific, having less than 10 SDG indicators in their national development plan. So what does that tell us, and why is this the case? Is it that our countries think that the global SDG indicators are irrelevant? Or are we not working closely enough with the countries to assist with their monitoring of their national development plans and their selection of indicators, ensuring that there is greater overlap with the SDG indicators? To us, it makes a lot more sense to work more closely with the countries to ensure sound indicator frameworks are developed for their own national reporting processes, and that this incorporates relevant globally developed indicators from frameworks such as the SDGs, as opposed to the top-down approach, which is focusing support on SDG monitoring and thus paying little attention to national processes. If countries incorporate more globally endorsed indicators in their national development plans and their sector plans, it should be a win-win. So let's talk about the data gaps. We always talk about data gaps at the global level and the limited progress made to address this issue, which seems to be most prevalent for small island developing states, the SIDS. But do we really understand what we mean by data gaps? Are we talking about data gaps for SDG reporting? Are we talking about data gaps for reporting against national development plans? Or are we talking about data gaps for reporting against all relevant global, regional, national, and national commitments? If it is the third, that is reporting against all relevant global, regional, and national commitments, what do we need to do and what are the solutions? From the ESCAP perspective, we've been thinking about this for a couple of years. And we are working with countries to establish a core set of priority indicators which cover their needs against all key global, regional, and national processes, such as the SDGs, and now the ABAS, the Antigua and Barbuda Program of Action from the recent SIDS4 conference, and as Vili said, our own 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent, and of course, your national development plans. Such an approach will make overall indicator production more focused and manageable, and should ensure far greater alignment between data needs and data production. So for example, whenever a key national household survey is conducted, this core set of indicators will provide invaluable guidance on what information should be prioritized. So what can we as development partners do to ease the burden on Pacific Island countries and territories? We need to work with the developers and national developments of additional global, we need to work with developers so we ensure that the additional global and regional reporting processes such as ABAS and the 2050 strategy and to ensure that the reporting burden is managed. This will be really important over the coming months as the 2050 strategy indicator framework is fine-tuned. and the ABIS indicator framework commences. And we need to be more actively involved in what countries are doing on the ground with their own national and sector plans to ensure that the relevant global and regional indicators are incorporated where it is appropriate. So all of these issues are discussed or covered in a recently released indicator guidelines and policy monitoring in the Pacific report, which my office has developed in partnership with SPC. So finally, let me just briefly advise you about some of the contributions of ESCAP in terms of supporting member governments in data capacity issues. So we have several tools, and one of these, particularly for this forum, is the Insights on Food Systems Risk Assessment Dashboard, which we have developed together with the World Food Programme, with contribution from the FAO and UNICEF. And it provides insights into multidimensional risks to 3 food system outcomes for people, planet, and prosperity. We also have a risk and resilience portal, and it's developed to help policymakers deepen their understanding of cascading risks from the disaster climate health nexus. And we also have a social protection stimulator, which allows countries to estimate the impact of introducing social protection schemes in poverty, inequality, and consumption. And we also, of course, provide statistical capacity development support through our statistics division in Bangkok and our dedicated Statistical Institute for Asia and the Pacific. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Toy. We'll now listen to Mr. David Gagnon from, just give me one moment, my computer is frozen. From the Department of Agriculture and, yes, Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, Australia. Mr. Gagnon, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Ministers, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. So as outlined in the FAO paper and as referred to by distinguished panelists this morning, it's quite clear there are significant data gaps in the Pacific, which continues to act as a major impediment to full and accurate analysis, reporting and forecasting, creating significant challenges for policymakers in developing targeted and effective policy solutions, and a misallocation or inefficient allocation of resources. So without minimising the concerns of other regions, the lack of data means that the Pacific, as a less populous region, is too often forgotten in the development conversations. So within the FAO, reporting on key issues is often presented for the Asia and Pacific region as a whole. So given that the region covers the 2 most populous countries across the globe in China and India, the picture for the Pacific with its small states is often masked in this regional reporting. For the FAO, current poor data capture and availability impacts the organisation's analysis work and investments in the Pacific, as noted in the report. At the FAO's Asia Pacific Regional Conference in Sri Lanka in February of this year, poor data was identified as a major impediment to effective policy responses in the Pacific. We appreciate the efforts involved to collect crucial data through traditional agriculture censuses and congratulate thinking outside of the box to include agricultural questions into non-agriculture specific census to help at least capture some data more regularly. So Australia is committed to working with our Pacific partners to address these data challenges. And that is why, as part of Australia's recently announced $3.4 million voluntary contribution to the FAO, we have identified over $450,000 to support these efforts to address data and information gaps relating to Pacific Island food security and agriculture. We know that collecting the data is the first big hurdle, followed closely by analysing the data. So these funds will support the FAO to invest greater resources in Pacific data collection and analysis, which will aid in the development of better solutions to the regional challenges we have been discussing this week. And Australia is looking forward to working with the FAO, with regional and local partners to implement this project. Aside from a lack of data, statistics can be compiled to give a misleading impression of the real situation on the ground. For example, figures from this year's State of Food Security and Nutrition report indicate that Oceania has a relatively low proportion of hunger compared to other regions, with a prevalence of undernourishment at 7.3% across the region in the period 2021 to 2023. However, this figure also masks strong regional variation and areas of concern. When Australia and New Zealand are excluded from the analysis, the regional prevalence of undernourishment is significantly higher at 22.8% over the same period. So this example shows the need to disaggregate regional data to ensure that our statistical analysis accurately reflects the real on-ground situation. I also note that due to the relatively small populations in the Pacific, the presentation of aggregate figures, minimizing the scale of food insecurity and food affordability in low population areas. Proportional analysis as percentages better reflect the dynamics and variations between each country. So finally, Chair, capacity building efforts can assist us in producing disaggregated reporting and thereby identify sub-regional and country level variations and priorities to enable better solutions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, esteemed panelists. We are doing bad, but not too bad in terms of time. But this is a very important subject. So I don't want to hijack the discussion here. I just spoke with the chair, and we want to open it to the floor, the audience, if you want to offer reflections or if you have questions. So ladies and gentlemen, if you want to do that, just walk to one of the microphones, and then you can make your point. The floor is open. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
So, Sergi Bang from the Department of Agriculture in Papua New Guinea. Thank you very much for the panel group up front and for this exposure on the data gaps, and before that, the talk we've had on the nutrition status in the Pacific. I want to bring to point here the role of the SPC in all of our discussions. The Secretariat of the Pacific Community and the role they have. How FAO can increase the work they can do in mobilizing this data collection and setting the research framework for the Pacific. The SPC remains the leading research and development organization in agriculture, AR4D, but also for health and improved livelihood in the Pacific. So my question is, the consideration of the SPC by FAO and the partners who are here as a key organization through which we move development in the Pacific. Please consider this and expand on the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I will ask let's another point and maybe one more reflection before I can ask someone from FAO to respond. The floor is still open if there's anybody who wants to make an intervention. All right. It looks like we need to go and have coffee. So what I would do, I will ask our chief statistician to quickly respond to the reflection from you, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Joseph, and thank you very much to the Honorable Minister Delegate. Thank you very much for the question. Let me start by saying that we in FAO believe in the concept of strengthening the regional institutions. And we have a long tradition as an institution, and also FAO Statistics have a long tradition on working with SPC. I remember back in 2017 or 2018, we developed together a strategy for improving statistics in the Pacific that we launched in the Asian Pacific Commission of Agricultural Statistics. I think, if I don't remember wrongly, it was in 2018. And since then, we have been trying always to find the best way of working with the countries in the Pacific to improve agricultural statistics. More specifically, in one of the two initiatives that I show, that is the one of bringing the global strategy for improving agricultural and rural statistics here in the Pacific, in the project that we work with SPC. So we are looking forward to start engaging with our colleagues in SPC to see in which type of role they will help us to implement this project. I will just finish with the way that I started. We in FAO, we are firm believers of strengthening the regional institutions that exist. Thank you.
Jose, and actually the first publication of our Pacific overview of the situation of nutrition and food security, the partnership is led by FAO. At the global level, it is exclusively UN agencies. At the regional level, it is also exclusively UN agencies. But at the Pacific level, we adapted that partnership. So SPC is a member. SPC joins UNICEF, FAO, the WHO, IFAD, the VFP, and hope I didn't leave anybody out, to form this committee, this partnership that produced the first version of the paper. And there's another version being worked out. So thank you very much. With this, colleagues, I will pass it over to the Honorable Minister to provide a quick summary, and then we'll close the section.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joseph, MCF, for today. Thank you to the panelists, Dr. Rosario, Sensei from Vanuatu, from Cook Islands, Dr. Sarah, and also ESCAP representative, and Mr. David Kana for their contribution and reflection from their various fields and sharing their experience with us. Listening to the panelists this morning, we still have a lot of challenges, and especially limitation to the capacity, resource constraints, fragmentation in our efforts, not only at the regional level, but also from our various states, and also contradicting priorities within our communities. We are here for agriculture, especially for primary industry, but also for development purposes, economic development, but also there's also challenges in our various states with regards to education and health and many more. As a minister for ICT in our region is like second from the bottom because of those, conflicting priorities. And it's why it's a pleasure to be here. It's a privilege for to be invited with FAO. And I am listening to the challenges. I won't go deeper into the challenge, but just a shared thought on some solutions going forward. And listening to the various challenges, for a solution, it needs a lot of cooperation and collaboration as a region. Going back history, Samoa was identified in the region in the early 1900s when German was here as the best place for cocoa and coconut. And during that time, Chinese, Asian friends were brought here to develop cocoa plantation and copra and cocoa. Sugar cane was identified for Fiji. And again, the same principle. And that was based on research, having the best available technology at the time, to identify best land use management. And here we are redoing that again. Look at us with all the well-equipped technologists, with all the knowledge and availability of facilities, educational equipment, and etc. We still have fragmentation in our processes. It's why we need, as a region, collaborating and working together. I think it's one of those key essential needs that we need to, go moving forward moving forward. Secondly, having relevant platforms that suits our time, that suits the new challenges, and to the new technologies and available information. I'll bring in examples. In Samoa, there's a lot of, as you heard from FAO investment leadership on Monday, on the first day of the meeting, for Tuesday. The amount of resources been injected into our systems, but very little output. And also, there's a lot of projects, but very little outcome. We're still, pressing and arguing and trying to get that for our developments. The Samoan government, the new government coming in, instead of going through the normal systems, government systems of getting projects and assistance to the villages, we assigned 1 million tala to all the districts to make sure they resolve their community issues. And it sends a message back, which is a data back to the government, what's most needed in our villages and our community. Their top priority is education and health. Education and health. And as an ICT minister, to bring in our agenda of ICT in our community, free internet for all schools. It's interlinking and collaborating and having a better platform to serve the needs of our people. If we bring it back to why we're here, economic development, we're trying to resolve the local issues first. The overflow of that knowledge, of that experience, of that production will serve as an extra economic for us. And I think having a relevant platform, that suits the need of our people, will, to my humble opinion, it will serve the purpose of our time. We are still in a contributing or distributing modality rather than addressing the fundamental, the basic needs of our people. Thirdly, localizing our efforts. Before I go any further, I've been to a lot, several other farms, and agency farms. And I see, there's a common absence, not only in person of our Pacific states representative, but also there's hardly any voice at those councils and assemblies. And I think the Caribbean, instead of being part of, from the ITU perspective, as part of a South American region, they have a specialized seat for the Caribbean islands to be part of that ITU assembly. And I see, why can't we do it for the Pacific? It's why this item of localizing our efforts, and we started from our people, our families, our districts, our states, and especially as a region, that we need to work together as a region to resolve our issues. And lastly, strong leadership. Being here as a minister and a public servant for the last 30 years, I see value in having a strong leadership and stewardship from the top, the ministerial level. And for humbly requesting, and I'm thankful for FAO for bringing ministers to this forum, ministers of our Pacific SIDS, discussing the solutions for tomorrow. Data, information will be there. It's just having a right platform and modality to making sure that we can capture that data and put it into a better use for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable ministers and senior esteemed panelists. We really, really appreciate your time to offer us these insights. I will now ask you to kindly return to your seats. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please offer them a big applause. All right. Now we will, as I promised you earlier this morning, that your coffee and tea will not be compromised. So the coffee and tea should be out there. I will just make a quick announcement. We have a quick section, which is the breakout section. It has 4 segments. So segment 1, which is a breakout section, the title is Leveraging Partnership with Private Sector to Enhance Market Linkages, Access to Finance and Agricultural Inputs for Smallholder Farmers in Fiji. And this is organized by the United Nations Capital Development Fund, Market Development Facility, and Cyber Food. And this will be in the Orchard room. Breakout 2, section 2, the title is Tools to Enable Atoll Island Communities to Transform Their Food Systems Despite Future Uncertainty. Organizers are Live and Learn, Environmental Education, and the Courtroom Institute. And then this will be in the Gardenia room. Breakout section 3, the title is Better Infrastructure and Decent Jobs in Rural Areas, the Role of Employment-Intensive Investments, and the organizer is the International Labour Organization. This will be in the Rewa room. And then breakout 4, the title is Harnessing Mobile Technology for Food Security and Nutrition, a deep dive into WFP's MVAM tool in the Pacific. And this will be organized by the World Food Program of the United Nations. The room is the Frangipani room. Ladies and gentlemen, during those sections, I will come there and I will announce to you the arrangement for lunch. Because immediately after those sections, we will go on the field and the buses you can see out there. I will come to those rooms and I will give you guidance on how the process will work for your lunch, but also the bus that you will get on. For this reason, it's very, very important to be in the breakout sections room because if you are not there, you wouldn't know when we are leaving from here and which bus you will be on. So ladies and gentlemen, I kindly encourage all of you, go and grab your coffee, and then when you have time, you go to the breakout sections, and then I will come back and I will provide information on the field trip. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, just so I want to clarify the breakout sections again so that you go to the right one. The first breakout session, the title is Innovative Approaches to Scaling Up, Translating Solutions for Better Nutrition and the Overall Well-Being of Populations Addressing SDGs. And then the organizer is the Faculty of Engineering, University of Newcastle. And the second breakout session is Homegrown and Climate-Friendly School Food Program, and that will be in the Gardenian Room. The third one is By the Pacific for the Pacific, Driving Transformational Change through Real-World Training, and this is organized by the University of Newcastle. It will be in the Railway Room. And the fourth one is Cost of Diet Analysis and Complementary Actions towards affordable healthy diets. And this is organized by the Rome-based agencies of the United Nations in the Upket Room. So ladies and gentlemen, the organizers are in the room. And I should just clarify also that we will have a quick lunch in the restaurants. I will come in the rooms to announce the arrangements. Yeah. Immediately after the breakout sections, we will have a quick lunch, and then we'll go to the field. So please grab your coffee, and then you go to the breakout sections. Thank you. And please look at the program for details.